What's going on, everybody? Captain Gonzo with that Flight Sim channel. And we're finally back on the FlightFX Citation 10. This time for the full flight video as promised. This one's going to be exciting because I am testing my brand new NVIDIA RTX 5090. And so far it has been tremendous. It chews up Flight Sim 2024. Pretty straightforward. And I am happy. But anyways, guys, this is going to be a quick walk around. I'm not going to take extra time. I want to get to the brass tacks. Fire up the old 10. And show you guys how to get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. So we're not going to do any flashy intros, any gimmicks, nothing of that sort. So we are here in Paine Field, that is KPAE, just north of Seattle. This is where the Boeing aircraft are assembled, such as the 777X Dreamliners. This is where that Dreamlifter comes into a lot as well. So we'll be taking off out of here and heading down to San Francisco. We're just removing all static elements from the aircraft. We'll keep the baggage door open for now. The main door opens. Let's go ahead and climb inside and start configuring this bird. All right, let's hide the yoke. Don't forget, folks, go to weights, and if you are using your sim brief dispatch, there will be an option in there to synchronize it with the payload and fuel. I've already gone ahead and done that, so I'm expecting you will do the same. Otherwise, you can just go in there and manually edit your values as needed. Okay, first things first, let's get that battery 1, battery 2 online. Let's get the standby power on, avionics power on, ECAS on. Let's go ahead and arm the emergency lights. And you know what? It is daytime right now, so we can go ahead and throw that light switch there, and it turns off or dims the backlighting. Let's go ahead and turn power on to the APU, but not fire up just yet. Just want to let it sit there. Let's go ahead and run through a series of tests here. So we're going to go ahead and do our smoke detection. There we go. Baggage smoke. Landing gear. Fire warning. I'm looking at the messages. There's our fire. Thrust reversed. You can see all of these are lit up. Flap. There's the flaps fail. The flaps indicator is amber. Windshield temperature. All right. Overspeed. There we go. FADEX fault. Now let me re-enable the yoke because I like the stick shaker on the AOA. Yeah. And you can see the angle of attack gauge over there moving. And lastly, the Christmas tree annunciator test. We're checking everything. You can see on the flight guidance mode here, we've got everything lit up. Master caution, master warning. Okay. So we are all set there. Now let's go ahead and move over here to the APU master panel. Remember that it's over here to the right of the first officer or co-pilot. So we've got the master on. You can test that. Verify you've got the test illuminators here and the annunciators show up. We're going to go ahead and press APU Start. You can hear the APU firing up. Check the RPM as it rises. And now we wait. There we go. We see the ready to load annunciator lit up. That means we can go ahead and throw our generator on. That way we're not killing our batteries. And then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and enable that bleed air from the APU. And voila! We've got everything configured. Good DC volts. APU exhaust gas temperature, EGT is stable. RPM is good. Okay, while we're here. Sorry, the camera kind of flipped there. So we're looking on the co-pilot side. We can get our nav light on. We'll keep everything else for now. And you know what? While we're here, seatbelt signs go on. Let's come up. Let me bring that yoke. Here, just behind the throttle quadrant, we can go ahead and set the IRS switches to align. We'll leave those there. And now let's go ahead and start setting up our MCDU here for the flight management system. So position in it. Verify you've got the correct nav data. I just updated it mine through Navigraph. So we should be all good to go. It's going to pick up the GPS position. There we go. We're going to press load. Flight plan. KPAE, and our destination this evening will be San Francisco. So let's go ahead and type that in. KSFO. And now let's pull up our sim brief dispatch so we can pinpoint everything. So right off the bat, we're looking at runway 34 left. Thank God, because we are right next to it. So departure 34 left. Activate. And then it looks like we're going direct Harrop. So we're going to type in Harrop. Then direct E-Rave. Guys, and if I'm getting a little bit too fast for you here, don't forget to drop comments and let me know. I get so excited with this freaking plane, just like I do with most planes. And I get carried, and I get lost in the sauce here. So if I am doing something too quickly, which I know I've been called out on before, feel free to drop that comment below, and I will try to revise or explain better through the comments. But you know what? Let me slow down here because this is a critical point. So you can see in our sim brief dispatch, you've got DCT. Remember, that means direct to Harrop, direct to Rave, direct to Eason. But wait a second, look what happens here. We've got a Quebec airway that's going to connect us to Etchy. So how do we type that in? Well, it's very simple. All you do is start typing the airway. In this case, Quebec 1. And then you're going to press the decimal point. And then simply type in Etchy, which is our next waypoint, as such. So Quebec 1 dot Etchy, and throw it in there, and let's see what happens. And there you go. Look at how automatically it connects these waypoints that are part of Quebec 1 inbound to Etchy. We got Ektoff, Ebony, Elin, Envy, Tacos, and Etchy. From Etchy, we'll go direct to Malbec. I think I typed that in correctly. Yep. And then we can look for the Bodega 4 arrival into San Francisco, runway 28 right. That's right, we're going to be doing the classic over-the-water approach. So, in order to pull up our arrival information, we want to go to Nav. So press that Nav button on the top left here of your CDU. Go to Arrival. You can see the airport's already in there. We're going to select the runway first, which is 28 right. Click Next if you don't see the runway you want. 28 right. And we're going to go with the ILS because I want to demonstrate how we set up the ILS on this aircraft. Now let me look up at my initial approach fix for that approach. So stand by. Alright, so I've got my instrument approach procedure here, or the IAP for the ILS 28 right into San Fran. Let me just verify that. And you know what? We're going to say Dumba. It's going to be our initial approach fix. We'll select that. Next is the Bodega 4 star or standard terminal arrival. So again, if you don't see the particular SID, star, or runway approach, etc., remember, you've got your next and previous pages, and you can cycle through, and it'll show you on the top right how many pages you've got available. So Bodega 4, and we're inbound through the Malbec transition. So select that, and there you go. You see how easy it is? So this reminds me a lot of the Airbus aircraft, right? You set up your approach, your runway, your star, etc., and now you've got a complete profile for your arrival. We're going to press Activate. We're going to scroll through, make sure everything makes sense here. You can see we've got our altitude constraints, speed restrictions, everything is in there, and again, it should be up to date because we just updated our Navigraph data. We've got a route discontinuity, which is pretty normal because after Bricks, that'll be our last waypoint out of the star, and then we're going to assume we are getting vectored for the ILS for 28 right. So at that point, we can just intercept a heading towards Dumba and then engage our localizer to intercept and get ourselves stable. Okay, so we are all set with our flight plan. Now we've got to set up our performance in it. So you're going to press this bottom right line select key on the right hand side. You can see here your aircraft type Citation 10 IGL2 for performance. Tail number, I screwed up. I loaded into a livery from FlightSimTO with a dynamic registration, and I didn't type anything in, so we don't have any tail number. We're not drug runners, I promise. Okay, this is for our performance, for our climb, cruise, and descent. Typically, I like to climb a little bit more aggressive, so I'm going to say 265 indicated. I'm going to keep cruise speed at max because we want to try to hit Mach 0.9 or greater if possible. Descent, I like it at 300 knots. It's a very good speed, and this aircraft, trust me, has no problem slowing down. So don't be scared, don't be alarmed. Keep these values as you want, keep them as default, and just play around with the aircraft. We'll press next. So we are cruising, I believe, at flight level 390. That is it. So we'll type in flight level 390. Speed and altitude limitations here, 250 under 10,000 feet, that's correct. And our standard temperature deviation of -1 degree Celsius. Transition altitude, flight level 180. That should be okay. Next. Now, before you confirm you're in it, you're going to want to press Sync EFB. And that should give you your fuel, your payload, as you set it up with your flight plan. And you can see we're empty today. 0 packs, 0 cargo. 7,008 on the fuel. It requires 7,034, but that's because on the sim brief, I had it with plus 15 on the fuel, so I'm okay. I will make it. There's our gross weight. No packs. Press confirm. There's our cruise altitude, flight level 390. Ceiling of 47,000 feet. Estimated time en route, 1 hour and 26 minutes. We need about 3,500 pounds of fuel. 3,600, just rounding up, and we've got 7,000. We've got plenty in there. Fuel on minimums. I like to set that a little bit higher, so I'm going to go with 900 pounds. I want to make sure I've got plenty to circle around, especially on a missed approach. But again, look at the fuel required. Look what we're loading up with. We are more than okay. You're going to press next. So we're 618 nautical miles to our destination. In distance, ETA of 2143 Zulu, and we will arrive with about 3,400 pounds of gas. Takeoff. Press that line select key once again. So 34 left. That's the runway heading. And we've got 9,000 feet. I promise you. More than plenty. Now let's look at our METAR here for Paine Field. So I'm going to go to my dispatch here. Go to departure. Looks like winds are 010 at 8. So let's start typing that in. 010 at 8. You're going to drop that here on the surface wind. Outside air temperature is showing 16 degrees Celsius instead of 15, so we'll type in 16. And then our altimeter is right now 3018, so we got to set that up. Let's go to the PFD. Oh, look at that. It's already set up. So if you need to reset it, there's your barrel set knob. You can cycle through it. Don't forget your backup altimeter or your standby altimeter. So 3018. Confirm on the co-pilot side. 3018, and you can see the pressure, altitude, and barometric set is correct. Press next. No slope, runway width, no threshold. Runway condition is dry. If you're in rainy conditions, you can cycle to wet. Otherwise, keep it in dry. Let's go to next. Anti-ice will be off. Flaps, let's go flaps 5 for this takeoff. Won't need it, we're not that heavy. And here's our takeoff weight. We're going to press confirm init. You can see we've got a headwind component of 6 knots and a left crosswind of, or left to right crosswind value of 3 knots. So pretty good for this runway. And we're only needing about 2,900 feet out of the 9,000 available. Press next. There's your V speeds. V1, 126, rotate at 128. V2, 140. Let's go to climb. Top of climb altitude, flight level 390. So about 18 minutes on the climb out at that speed. We can always change that if we want to as we're airborne. Cruise. Aha. There we go. Mach 0.91, baby. And hopefully the winds allow us to get even faster. We can cycle through descent. This is the bottom of descent altitude, which unfortunately is not modeled, so I can put a value in there, but it won't do anything. See? Key not active. So you can just keep it as is and just let the aircraft handle the descent via its top of descent. Go to landing, and then we're going to update these values, just like I mentioned on my initial video, once we got our weather info for San Francisco, our outside air temperature, our wind conditions, and our barometer or our altimeter. So we'll set that up as we get near that point. But I know right now we should be pretty much set to go. So let me go back to my flight plan page. On the secondary or the right-hand side MCDU, I'm going to pull up my takeoff speeds. Go to confirm. There we go. Keep that there. And now it's ready to start firing up the aircraft. So let me recycle my camera and we'll pick right back up. Here we go, folks. So now that we are all set, let's go ahead and get those IRS switches to nav. And you see how it says nav ready? Throw it to nav. Let's go ahead and close our doors. So let's go to ground services. Main door, luggage door. Let's take a look outside. What a beautiful aircraft. I don't care what anybody says with the modern aircraft. This is still the sexiest business jet around. And I'm a sucker for Gulfstream, but something about the Citation 10 always stands out. Okay, let's go over to the co-pilot side. We got to get our beacon light on. So that is right here. You're going to throw it into ground recognition. There we go. So that's all set. We can confirm on the outside. There's the bacon light, as I like to call it, and one underneath the fuselage, letting people around us know that we are going to be firing up momentarily. Trying to think of what else I could be needing right now. If you are talking to ATC, don't forget your squawk code. So you can just go right here to your comm nav stack and use your rotary dials and set whatever code you want to. We'll keep it there. Why not? All right, we're all set. So let's go ahead and start up our aircraft. So the first thing we want to do is go over to the co-pilot side. Here we are looking at the co-pilot side, and I'm just going to read off of the starting engines checklist included with the aircraft. So the APU start is already set. Pack isolation valve knob is closed. You can see it right here. It is indeed in the closed position. Start duct pressure should be at least 30. Okay. And then we're going to start with the right engine. And then we're going to throw the throttle into idle, so stand by. All right, so we verified the isolation valve is closed. So now we're going to start with that right engine. Now, I'm just going to make a side note. So typically your throttles will be found in the idle cutoff position like this. And I know that based on the checklist, it says once you've got N2% at 10%, you throw those into idle. However, for me, for some reason, I always get a hung start. So I'm just going to throw those into idle. I'm going to recycle my throttle quadrant, bring them back. There we go. Just do a quick flow here. So on your panel here with your battery power, your electrical power, and all your fuel boost, make sure they're on norm. Ignition can stay on norm. FADEX norm. And that's all we need to worry about right now. So let's go ahead and start the right engine. Here we go. You can see N2 is steadily climbing. Oil temperature is going to slowly start increasing. And of course, we want to verify good oil pressure. There we go. Got a good light off. Engine number 2. We're still monitoring ITT, making sure nothing peaks. Let's recycle that generator. So that's the right-hand generator. So we've monitored that. We've got a good engine start. Now we can do the same procedure for the left engine. Press that left-hand engine start. There we go. It's coming online. Beautiful. Looks like we've got 2 good engines. We can reset that generator if needed. There's the ECAS message. Okay, it's gone. Now that we've got a good engine start, we can go ahead and turn off our bleed air from the APU. Now that we've turned off the APU bleed air, according to the checklist, it wants us to go to the ECAS system on the MFD here. Press the engine page. Right here is the right select key. You can see we've got a start pressure, right? So now we're going to find the right engine bleed air knob and throw it off. So that's going to be over here. Turn it off. And we're going to make sure that this isolation valve is open. Left engine bleed air knob to off. And now we can throw those back to high pressure. And we can close that isolation valve. And then the APU bleed air switch as desired. We'll keep it off for now. We can return the MFD ECAS to norm. Since we've got generators online, let me just verify that. No ECAS messages. We can turn off that generator on the APU. Oh, so I still had it on. That was my mistake. Let me just confirm that one more time. There we go. So we should see 0. That's what we wanted to see initially. Yep. And if we open the ISO valve, Okay, good. Put those back to HPLP. Close that ISO valve. That was my mistake, guys. Got ahead of myself on the checklist. Let's go ahead and turn off the generator from the APU. And let's go ahead and power it down. Let it cool off. So it looks like we've got a good jet. Let me go ahead and show my yokes again. Let's go ahead and configure the aircraft before taxi for takeoff. So we're going flaps 5. While we're here, let's go ahead and throw our taxi light on. And don't forget to reset your trim horizontal stabilizer there, so your pitch trim. So I'm using my yoke switch. There we go. That's good. We're in the green for takeoff. That's all that matters. Let's go ahead and extend the range here. See our route to Harrop and then E-Rave. Alright, and I think we're about ready to taxi, so let's come back here. Just behind the center pedestal, we can release the parking brake. We've got the taxi light on, ground recognition light on, and our nav light on. We are ready to start taxiing, so now let's go ahead and give it a little bit of power. There we go, that's my track IR coming back online. Let's start taxiing. And we're going to hit these people on the way out, but that is not my fault. They decided to hang out. Love the sounds. As we start taxiing, you can hear the wheels. So we're going to taxi straight ahead. We're going to cross over our departure runway, which is 34 left. Then we're going to swing a right and taxi and line up on 34 left. So we'll see you as we're holding short there. And as we're taxiing to 34 left, check out the KC-46s here being assembled and ready to be handed off, although Boeing's had a nightmare with those tankers, but nevertheless. Alright, so we're going to go into the MFD and we're going to go into control positions here. We're going to verify flight controls are free and correct. Good. We know the rudder works as we've been steering. Let's go ahead and throw our pitot-static heat on. And don't forget, guys, that FlightFX makes it very easy here. You've got some cheat knobs here. So you've got your course knob, altitude knob, and your heading knob here on these little screws. So right now we're just going to set this up to our cruise altitude of 39,000 feet. I'm going to hold short here while we configure those things last minute. There we go, 39,000. Okay, so we're going to be departing north right on heading 359, and we got to turn southbound. So what we'll do is we'll assume that ATC would give us a heading of 210 towards Harrop, or somewhere thereabout. So we've got that all configured. Let's go ahead and get our strobe lights on, recognition on, landing lights can go on. Let's go ahead and take the runway and get started with our takeoff. Approach in looks clear. We shouldn't have anybody anyways. No traffic enabled. Just us. No ATC. I just want to focus on the Citation 10. I know several of you out there have been asking for the second portion of my first flight, so this will be the full flight, and you should be able to learn everything. 34 left on the pavement. At least we know we're in the correct runway. That's always a good sign. Alright, here we go. We're going to start introducing power. There we go, and let's go to takeoff thrust. Airspeed's alive. And we're going to rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Let's go down here to our elapsed time. Let's start that clock. Return. We're still manually flying the jet, so let's go ahead and make that left turnout towards heading 210. We can turn off the taxi light, engine sync to turbine. Let's go ahead and reduce thrust to climb thrust. And just as a reminder, the Citation 10 is a very, very easy airplane to fly by hand. So as you can see, I'm just climbing. I trimmed it out, maintaining that left bank towards a heading of 210. Don't worry, because we're going to enable nav mode with the autopilot and just follow the magenta line to Harrop. Not a bad day to be flying here in the northwest part of the United States. Let's reduce pitch here, let the airspeed come up somewhat. And again, no autopilot, just us here hand flying. And we're still right off course, so we're going to keep turning left. Let's go ahead and clean the flaps up. Alright, and now that we are on a good intercept course, let's go ahead and enable our auto throttle. So if you don't see this on your panel, press the home, go to config, and in general, make sure you've got the enable auto throttle module checked. Otherwise, you will not have an auto throttle, and you'll have to monitor that by yourself. So we'll go ahead and throw that on. There we go. And now the aircraft knows that underneath 10,000 feet, we've got to maintain 250 or less. Let's go ahead and enable nav, VNAV, and flight level change, and throw the autopilot on. And there we go. Don't forget as well, if you don't have the magenta here set up on your HSI and on your PFD, you want to press FMS to make sure you're on the correct nav source. Otherwise, if you're on nav, you'll be trying to track to whatever VOR or station you had prior. There you go. You can see the aircraft adjusting pitch to maintain that airspeed 250 below 10,000. We're still on an intercept course towards that desired track. So we'll keep following along. Look at that. We're already about to cross 10,000 feet. Seattle Tacoma International should be down over here somewhere to our 10, 11 o'clock. And now you can see how the speed bug changed to that 265 that we typed in earlier for our climb. So the nose is going to come down a little bit. It's going to let the airspeed bleed up. There's your course deviator indicator needle moving as we're tracking our LNAV route or path. And we've got a decent, kind of a quartering tailwind there, so I'll take that all day. All right, let's go ahead and throw off those landing lights. And that's it, guys. Not really much to it at this point. You just let the aircraft do its thing. Again, nav, VNAV, and flight level change. Make sure you enable your autopilot over here on your flight guidance computer. And that's all there is to it. So we'll continue climbing. Once we get through flight level 180, don't forget to reset your altimeter to standard. And the easy way to do that is right here, STD. Just press that button. It'll reset to the standard 29902. And don't forget to reset it on your backup or your standby altimeter. We'll see you as we are cruising at flight level 390. Alrighty, we are at flight level 390, and you see it took us just under 9 minutes to get up here. But my favorite part right now, we are in a very, very favorable condition. Check out that tailwind. We have about 52 knots straight up our windpipe there. And look at our ground speed. We're doing 550 knots across the ground, true airspeed of 509, and we're still increasing speed to get to Mach 0.91. So as we're getting to that point, we'll let the auto throttle manage that. But this is what you want to see. A Citation 10, as if it didn't need it already, with a tailwind. It's even more of a monster. So we are all in, and I love it. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out our cruise checklist. So throttles, cruise detent or as required. So we are in the cruise setting, even though the ECAS is still showing climb. Let me just confirm that. Yep, auto throttle's got it, so I'm going to let it sit there. Pressurization check, so we can go over here to the co-pilot side. You can see we've got a cabin altitude right now, and pressurization of almost 4,000 feet, so nice and comfortable. And the fuel transfer verify, so we're going to come over here to the ECAS, check our fuel flow. We've got good fuel transfer. Remember that the APU is always going to burn up fuel from your left-hand main tank there, so that's why we're slightly lower than our right side. But no biggie, we are all good. So that's our cruise checklist. And now there's nothing really much to do besides hang out, enjoy the flight. Let's go over to the FO side. Even though we don't got any passengers back here, we can turn off the seatbelt signs. We'll go ahead and throw the passenger safety on just to let them know, hey, if you are on board, be careful. Don't do anything crazy. Okay, let's do this. Now that we're cruising, we've got a good amount of time before we got to get ready for our top of descent. Let's take a look at our MCDUs, shall we? Here we go. So we're back looking at the MCDU, and I want to cover several pages that'll be very, very helpful for this flight. The first thing you can do is go to the prog or progress key. And it's going to give you your present position, what your next waypoint is. So Eason is 98 nautical miles away, about 11 minutes before we get there, and we should have 5,300 pounds or so of fuel left there. Our destination is still showing 548 nautical miles away, or 59 minutes, and we should be touching down there with about 3,500 pounds of fuel. We can press the next page. You can see our speed and altitude command, 285 indicated, or Mach 0.29, or Mach 191, sorry, not Mach 1. Altitude 39,000. You can see our vertical speed of top of descent. This will start updating as we get near that point. Our top of climb is no longer showing because we've already hit that. Fuel quantity 5,700 pounds and updating. Our top of descent is getting ever so closer, and our current gross weight. Press next. Here is your left or right track error. We are dead on track there. There's our track 164, a drift of 4 degrees, heading of 168. Winds are 325 at 52. So there's that tailwind component of 49 knots. And look at that ground speed, guys, 560. We are cooking. Next, let's go to the performance key, or performance button, and let's take a look at a few things here. Let's go to fuel management. Well, there's our current fuel status, or fuel flow, 2,320. Ground speed, true airspeed, and this is our gas efficiency, so about 0.273 nautical miles per pound, or in the air, 230 something nautical miles per pound. Here's our overall fuel flow between engine 1, we've used up 670 pounds. Engine 2 is 650 pounds. Total, we are at 1,300 pounds, a little bit more that we've burnt up. Now we can go back to performance. We can go to the cruise page, and we can see some other relevant information. So you can see our range here with our current fuel loadout and our reserve. So at this setting right now, we've got a range of about 1,100 miles, give or take, as it updates, and about 2 hours plus 2 minutes of endurance. Well, this is handy. If weather conditions suddenly change, you can monitor this throughout your flight and determine if you're going to be able to make it to your destination, or if you're going to have to find an alternate to descend and arrive safely. Alright, well, we've covered pretty much what we need to learn here on the CDU. That's going to give you any relevant information throughout your flight. Let's take a look at our PFD and our MFD. So let's go ahead over here into the MFD, and let's press that PFD setup. And you can see right here, you can select between your different flight director queues. So you can go to the current one right now. You can go to that diamond triangle one that I really don't like. So I'm going to go back to the crosshairs. I like a clean PFD with the crosshairs. It just makes sense to me. If you needed to change your altimeter units, this is where you can change it. So you're either in inches of mercury or HPA. There you can see it, 1013. But we're going to stick to inches of mercury. So just cycle back to that. Lastly, you've got metric altitude, if you want to see your altitude in meters. And you can see we're at almost 12,000 meters there, so 11,885. We're going to disable that. I don't need that. We'll press the return key. Let's go to MFD Setup. Here you can enable what kind of data you want to see on your navigation display. So if you want to see VORs, there you go. And you can zoom in, zoom out as you need to. You can see right now we've got a range of 50 miles on the display. Let's bring it in closer. And you can see your stations there. If you want to enable airports, press that line select key underneath APTS. And you see there's Portland, KPDX, and another airfield there. Again, zoom out if you need to, and you'll see those airports popping up along your route. Here you can select between traffic or terrain. I'm not too familiar with how to enable the weather or the terrain, but I am going to just keep it as is. Here is one of my favorite features of the Collins avionics package found here, and that is the vertical profile. This is very handy when we're getting near our top of descent, which we will enable later on as we approach that. And then finally, our wind. You can select between the vector or an X and Y. You can see there 45 with a right to left of 18 knots. I like the vector. It's a lot better. Let's go to return. Here is where I started my timer, the main ET, elapsed time, flight time setup. And you can see right now that we've still got the clock running. So if you didn't do that, you just have to press ET and that'll start your clock. Press return. Let's go to ECAS system and you can pull up additional info from your ECAS on the MFD. So if we want to check out the fuel and hydraulic, there you go. Electrical, APU, and engines. So it's redundant. If you don't want to clutter up your ECAS, you can have it over. But this to me just kind of gets in the way of my navigation display. So I'm going to go ahead and disable that by clicking on it again and leaving my navigation display as is. Lastly, we can go to V-speeds. We already had our takeoff speeds showing earlier, but you'll notice that we probably won't have any landing speeds. Well, we do. Okay, so we've got a VREF of 114 and a VAP or approach speed of 119, but remember that these might update when we put in our weather information down here on our MCDUs, on our approach configuration. So just be sure to triple check this on your descent to make sure you've got the latest values. And right now we're going to keep it automatic because we want the computer to do all the work for us and give us our proper speeds. Press return, return, and there we go. We're going to keep the MFD showing as is. Over on the ECAS display, you've got a similar layout where you can go through and check out various modes. We go to norm. You can see how it changes the layout here on your ECAS to electrical, hydraulics, fuel. Everything on the top should stay the same. We can focus on fuel and hydraulic, electrical, your flight control positions, and lastly, your engines. So I'm going to go back to norm. Just leave it as that. And similarly, like we did on the pilot side, you can do it on the FO side or co-pilot side. You can go through the menus and configure the aircraft as you need it. All right, and since we're up here checking out other various systems, I want to show you a few tricks here on the PFD, MFD, using your buttons here on this auxiliary panel. So let's say you want to take a look ahead at your flight plan and see what your waypoints are looking like. Well, right now we've got the MFD with our present position showing our inbound to Eason, Ekdorf, Ebony, and so on. Well, here's a neat feature, right? What you can do is go to your MCDU or your CDU, press the flight plan page, and over here you're going to look for the MFD map button. Go ahead and press that. And now this is going to be similar to a plan mode, kind of like you find on the MCP on a 737 or other Boeing aircraft or the Airbus. And what you can do is press the skip button, SKP, and it'll cycle through in succession through your waypoints, and you can take a look ahead. So right there we can see after Tuckos, I'm going to zoom in and check that diamond out, TOD. There is that notorious top of descent that a lot of us look for. So we can see an expected after Tuckos before Etchy. And all you got to do is keep pressing skip, and it'll cycle again in sequence down to your arrival. And if you want to come back, you can just press recall, RCL, and bring you back to your next waypoint. So very useful. You can just press MFD map and go back to your standard row setup with your present position and orientation. Again, remember that up here on the PFD side, you've got various options. So right now, we're seeing our typical rose pattern horizontal situation indicator showing your course deviation indicator needle, which obviously should be in line because LNAV is enabled. But let's say you want to find your bearing pointer. So you're going to go up here and we're going to select FMS1. And you're going to see that big blue ball there showing you where you should be pointing at, which is a good resource to have just as a secondary measure to know where you should be pointing at. Remember, you can switch between your nav sources between FMS, Flight Management System, or nav if you're tuning into a station and tracking. But don't forget that if you're on nav, you're going to have to go to your comm nav stack here and set up your nav radio and make sure you're either on nav 1, and you can select that bearing pointer to VO1 or ADF1 if you're going for automatic direction finding. And similarly, if you do it on your nav 2 radio on the FO side, you can select it over here as well as cycle through the nav pages. But we'll keep it as is for now, as this is exactly what we need. And you know what? Now is a good time to go ahead and brief our approach, set up our minimums on the PFD. And, you know, I've talked to real-life professional pilots, and they always tell me, hey, Gonzo, there is never a point in the flight that is too early to brief your approach, your descent, etc. The earlier you get ahead of this, the better it'll be, because you'll know exactly what to expect on your descent and approach to your airfield. So let's do that. All right, folks, here we go. We've got the instrument approach plate once up again. Verify the correct name, airport, and the correct approach you're expecting. ILS or localizer, runway 28 right. First thing we want to look at is our localizer frequency, which will be 111.7. So we're going to come down here to our radios. We're going to set that up. So we're going to go ahead and press the line select key on the green or your standby frequency. And you're going to cycle using your bigger wheel and smaller wheel to the desired frequency. So 111.7. And then you're going to cycle with the top or the right select key on the top and throw that value into your active. And now we're telling the radios, hey, this is the nav frequency I want you to be tuned into. We have a final approach course of 284 degrees, which we will set up once we switch over from FMS mode on the nav button here to nav, and then we'll adjust our course. However, because we've already set that onto the approach here for the arrival, it should already be loaded in once we switch over to nav mode. So I'm going to cycle back to our active flight plan page. So you can see Aximal, 1800 feet is where that glide slope capture should happen, and you can see it here on your horizontal profile. You can see that windmill crosshair thing. That is where we should be capturing that glide slope at or above 1800 feet MSL. And here we go. For the ILS, our decision altitude of 213 feet with the barometric pressure, or decision height in AGL above ground level with the radar altimeter of 200. So how do we set that up? Very easy. I'm going to show you right here. Let's bring this over to the side. We're going to zoom in here on the PFD and check out this knob that says minimums. You've got two options. You can go between RA for radar altimeter or baro. And if you look right here, just on top of your inbound course here and distance to go, you can see baro. Let's say we want to go to the radar altimeter. You'll press that button and boom, you've got a minimum now of 200, which is exactly what we need for this approach. So we'll do that. We'll do 200. And then we'll continue briefing the approach. So airport elevation 13 feet. Touchdown zone elevation at 28 right is 13 feet. Here's your minimum safe altitude around the San Francisco VOR. So we are inbound coming from the north to San Francisco. So we can see that anywhere between 120, you've got your MSAs right there. Between 120 and 230, 5,000. And then on this side, on the southeast side of the VOR, 4,500 feet. You've got your missed approach procedure, so climb to 3,000 feet on the San Francisco VOR radial 281 to VQ interception, and at 12 DME from San Francisco, hold. Missed approach requires a minimum climb to 350 foot per nautical mile to 1,900 feet. If unable to meet the climb gradient, see ILS or localizer for 28 left. All right, so we shouldn't have a problem with that. And once again, we're going to look at our minimums here. So for a full ILS, remember that means localizer and glide slope are active. You've got vertical and lateral guidance. Minimum stay the same, 200 feet on the radar altimeter or decision height versus 213 with your barometric pressure. So for full, for all categories, runway visual range of 1,800 feet or half a statute mile, and so on. You've got other categories here that we will not really cover right now. We can also see right here the type of lighting we can expect on that runway. We do have a PAPI, as well as the ALSF-2 runway lighting. Missed approach procedure, briefed right here. 3,000 feet climbing on the San Francisco radial 281. That's the frequency, 115.8 to VICU, and we would hold at that intersection. So I think we're all set. We're going to go ahead and close this up. And you know what? Let's go ahead and take a look at our arrival. So here we go. We're looking at the Bodega 4 arrival. Once again, don't be afraid to verify all the information you need. Bodega 4 RNAV arrival. Runways 1 right, 28 left, and 28 right. That checks out. So we're looking for the Malbec transition. There we go. So by the time we get to Malbec, we should be at 280 knots at or above flight level 290. Proceed to Joan at 280, below 280, but above or at or above flight level 240, and so on, and we'll continue. And I remember looking through my flight plan and seeing that all my altitude constraints are already in there. Don't be afraid to verify it and double check, triple check if you have to make sure you don't punch through any altitude or speed restrictions on your way down. So I think we've got an overall good idea of what to expect for descent. Now there's nothing really much left to do except wait for that top of descent, and then we'll confer with our descent checklist in just a few seconds. Alrighty, we're getting close to that point. You can see we have just passed Tucos. We're inbound to our top of descent. So let's see exactly where we're at from our top of descent. So let me pause track IR right here. Let's press progress. Let's go to next. Check it out. We're at 33.7 nautical miles away, so it is going to happen very, very soon. What we can do is go ahead and reset our altitude down to a lower value. So let's say, I don't know, we've been clear to descend to 5,000, whatever, arbitrary value. No ATC, RSIM, our rules. So we've already got that set up. As we get near the top of descent, we should see some symbology changes here on the PFD because we do have vertical navigation enabled, or VNAV. Okay, so we've got that all set up. Now what we can do is confer with our descent checklist. Okay, so the first item on the descent checklist is the left-hand and right-hand windshield anti-ice switches to on. You can find those over here on the co-pilot side, just beneath your pitot-static heats. So we'll throw those two on. Side window vent knobs closed. Now, I am not familiar. Oh, there they are. There's the window vents. So we're going to go to close. Let's come underneath here, the EFP. That one's closed. Looks good. Pressurization. We're going to check and set the landing elevation, which we can do as we begin our descent here momentarily. Anti-ice switches as required. APU as desired. Exterior lights. Flight level 180, our transition altitude as required. And our altimeter, make sure we set that as we transition below 18,000 feet. All right, and here we go. We're approaching that top of descent. Check it out. Next to your altitude tape here, you can see that magenta triangle showing our next altitude constraint of 29,000 feet. What we can do is go to the flight plan page, and there we go. From Etchi, we've got to be crossing Malbec at 280 knots and at or above flight level 290. So that's all set. Now let's go ahead and pick up the weather info for San Francisco. Let's scroll down. Let's actually take that away. Arrival airport. Here we go. So a current METAR down at San Francisco. Winds 290 at 12. Visibility 10 miles. Few clouds at 400 feet. Temperature 17 degrees Celsius, 2.13. Altimeter 2986. Check it out. As I was mentioning that, we have started our descent. Engines are now at idle. Again, auto throttle still managing that. And we've got a good descent path. So you know what? Let's go ahead and set up that option for our profile. So go to MFD Setup, vertical profile, and here we go. You can see your waypoints with your corresponding altitude constraints, your present position, and your altitude, and it'll show you if we're on track or not to hit those. All right, so as we are descending, let's go ahead, go into our performance page. Go to performance, let's go to landing, and we got to set up our arrival information here. So outside air temperature at San Francisco, it's 17 degrees Celsius. Altimeter will be set to 2986, which we will set through the PFD and the backup altimeter. And then the winds were 290 at 12. So 290/12. Put that into your wind. Press next. Runway conditions, I don't see anything on the TAF or the METAR that shows any moisture, rain, or anything like that. I believe right here on the TAF, let's see, on the 9th from 249 Zulu. So we're showing winds 300, 18, gusting 25, visibility 6 statute miles, and it looks like some haze. That's fine, we can live with that. I think that's what it means. I forget what the abbreviations are. So I'm going to keep everything in dry. There's our runway width, 198 feet, density altitude. Press next. For our landing, anti-ice will be off. Flaps 35. There's our approximate landing weight. Let's go to landing data. So there we go. We're only going to need about 2,860 feet of runway. That's going to be interesting. We've got a good crosswind there with a slight 1-knot tailwind component. That'll be fun. Press next. And there we go. We've got some updated approach speed. So a VAP of 122 with a VREF of 117. So we've configured the jet now. We've got all the necessary information. I'm going to keep the performance page open with our landing speeds here on the co-pilot side. We can tuck this away now. And now we just continue our descent down to San Francisco. And as we're descending here through 30,500 feet, I want you to pay attention to what the ATS or the auto throttle system is displaying. So speed is showing our flight plan speeds. Remember how we not only have altitude constraints on this arrival, we also have target speeds. And you can see those values here at 280 and 280. So Joan, 280, Bigelow, 280. And you can see how the auto throttle is set to 280. And that is because we are on FMS. So if you want to switch to manual, you would have to cycle this wheel to the manual. And then you can adjust your speed using this conical knob here to whatever you desire. So if ATT tells you, hey boss, you're coming in a little bit too hot, let's reduce speed to 250, you can just override that, go to manual, set the speed here on your speed bug, and the auto throttle will try to maintain that speed so as long as you keep it enabled. All right, here we are crossing 3,000 or 13,600. Let's go ahead and start briefing our approach checklist. So landing data confirmed. We can go over here, go to return, go to V speeds, landing speeds. They have indeed updated. Crew briefing complete. Avionics, flight instruments check and set. I'm going to confer. Once again, I've got that localizer frequency set, 111.7. Let's go ahead and get our landing lights on. Minimums set, 200 on the radar altimeter. Fuel cross fleet switch off. or the cross feet. There it is. Exterior lights as required. Flaps and slats as required. Passenger briefings, not applicable. We are empty today. Seats, seat belts, shoulder harnesses. Aft dividing slide doors, check, secure, latched. Passenger advisory lights, passenger safety. That is over here. Left hand, right hand ignition switches set to norm. So that should still be in the norm. They are right here. You can see they're on the down position for norm. Pressurization, 0 differential at touchdown. Lastly, engine sync, knob to off. There we go. So we've got a good approach checklist completed. Now this arrival is going to have us fly right over the top of San Francisco. We're going to go inbound to Cork and then Bricks. Oh no, the MFD is lagging out. Let me see, let me do this. So I have noticed this before. It kind of lags out and won't let me reset the range. It's alright, we can live with that. Sometimes it comes back on its own, so we'll just have to monitor it. But you can see, Bricks, we got to cross at 11,000, so we're going to hang out there. Now what we got to do is open ourselves up, right? Because we're going to fly right over the field here. Let me show you that arrival. So let's go to the Bodega 4. Bring that up. There is San Francisco, and you can see we're inbound to Bricks at 11,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to depart on heading 140 from Bricks. And then we're going to circle back around to intercept Dumba, which is our initial approach fix, and set ourselves up for that approach. And then once again, looking at the approach plate here. So what we'll do is we'll reset the altitude to, let's do 4,000. There's Bricks. Let's go ahead and reset that heading knob to 140. Range knob is still kind of tweaking out. About 1.5 miles from Bricks. Let's see if we can see the field below us, although we've got some clouds. Look at that. There is San Francisco, crossing right over it at 11,000. Beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and change to heading mode now. So we're going to enable heading on the flight guidance modes there. And you know what? Let's go ahead and start a vertical speed descent. So go to VS. Let's try that again. There we go, and we're using the scroll wheel here to select our descent rate. So let's go a little bit more aggressive. Let's open up. And then we're going to continue on this 140 heading just to open up and give ourselves enough time to turn around and turn back towards Dumba. Let's expedite a little bit more. We can use a bit of speed brakes here to help us slow down. You can see the speed brakes work immediately, so you don't need much. Nothing crazy, nothing to it, guys. Citation 10 could be a little bit intimidating at first. But if you're one of those guys like Captain Flako and I, we fly the Phoenix, the PMDG, this should be no problem. And if you've dedicated some time to the default title CJ4, or even the FlightFX Piaggio, the King Air C90, you should be somewhat familiar with the Rockwell Collins avionics suite here. They're very straightforward, very user-friendly in my opinion, nothing to it. It's just a matter of practice. Alright, so we'll continue down towards 4,000. And then once we're getting ready to turn back around towards Dumba, I will show you how we set up for that approach. Still descending, there's 4,900. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch over to manual on the auto throttle. I'm going to do that. And let's go ahead and start reducing speed. Let's say 210. Let's reduce our descent rate here because we're getting kind of low to these mountains. Let's go ahead and start a left-hand turn. to track towards Dumba. We don't want to get too close or too low here to these mountains or these valleys. I'm sure ATC would be having a fit right now. There we go. And again, you see I'm using my heading screw here. There we go. Heading 005. 1,000 feet to go to 3,000. We can continue our descent rate. I've adjusted it a little bit more there. Before landing, checklist, we'll confirm gear down and locked, 3 green, flaps S required, speed brakes retracted, ECAS check, airspeed VREF, autopilot off, above minimum use height. So here we go, we're turning inbound towards Dumba. Let's make our speed 200 knots. And once again, remember, I did that by switching to manual, and then using the conical knob, I can adjust that speed. Let's go ahead and go slats down. And here's what we can do now. We can go ahead and prepare for that ILS approach. So switch to nav. And you can see the localizer 1 is ready. You can see we're inbound. We've got the correct frequency, 111.7, 111.7. So we can arm the approach. We'll stay at 3,000 for the meantime. And let's verify that final approach course there. So 284, there it is, 284. We are indeed correct. So we're going to come in over the bay here, and you can definitely see those clouds are definitely low. Our METAR was showing 400 feet. That about checks out. So this will be a perfect example here on how to execute a ILS. And check it out here on our CDI for our VOR display here, our backup. You can see that the CDI corresponds to our HSI display here. So as the needle starts to move here, we should also see it moving here. All right, let's keep slowing down. Let's say we got told to reduce speed to 180. Nothing crazy, nothing to it. We're just tackling along here. Let me reduce the range. And you know what? Let's give us a bit of a better intercept angle here. So let's go 345. That looks about good. Let's go flaps 5. I am loving the weather here. This is beautiful. This really makes me happy right now. Now let's see if I can do everything correctly. And you know what? We can change our bearing to VOR1. Again, approach mode is armed. We're still holding altitude and heading. There we go. You can see that flight mode annunciator changed to localizer. There's the needle moving on the HSI. Here's the needle as well. Let me check what our altitude was. So our missed approach climbed to 3,000, so we'll keep it at 3,000. And I think I might have slowed down a bit too far out. We're still a decent way from the runway. You can see we're about 14 nautical miles from the localizer at the airport there for the runway. So we'll continue at this speed for now. Let me go ahead and bring up my V speeds here just so I can reference them. But keep in mind that we've already configured it, and check it out. You've got it here on your altitude or your airspeed tape. So VAP 121, VREF 116. Let me check that approach plate once again. So Seepin 3000, then Aximal at 1800. You can see that green triangle. We should start descending here shortly once it captures that glide path. Oh, and that's why the range knob wasn't working. So if you're inside one of these menus, it might kind of bug out on you, so make sure you press the return. There we go. We're starting to descend. We still got a good localizer. Let's reduce speed even further. Let's go. Let's just set up for our VAP 121. Let's go flaps 15. Let's go gear down. Taxi light on. So once again, before landing checklist, gear down and locked, 3 green. Flaps as required. We are in 15. We're going to set them to full here momentarily as we slow down. ECAS check. Nothing that is alarming me right now. Airspeed, VREF. We're slowing down to it. We're starting with our VAP first and then our VREF of 115. Autopilot will come off above minimum. Before landing checklist complete, let's go flaps full. I still can't see the runway because of the glare, but I know we're at least on the right track. Let's take a look outside, shall we? Look at this. Oh my God. Oh, check it out. Underwater. Awesome. What a perfect weather scenario for an ILS. This is perfect. I'm so happy right now. All right, we're still scanning. We're still maintaining that VAP speed, 120. Let's drop it down to 1 knot. We're going to fly this down to the minimums, it looks like. So if we don't see the runway, we're supposed to execute a missed approach. But because ceiling's at 400, our minimums are 200 or 213 with the barrel. We should be A-okay. There we go. I can see the bay a little bit here. But you know what? Nobody's got time for missed approaches anyway, so we're going to continue. Approaching 1,000 feet. I'm not going to lie, I'm getting a little bit nervous here. I can definitely see that TAF was perfectly on the spot with the haze. And again, those ceilings 400 feet. About 750 feet. Okay, I see the runway. Beautiful. So we're continuing the approach. All right, autopilot coming off. Auto throttle off. My controls. Slow it down. We're going to shoot for that VREF of 115, so reduce power. 2 white, 2 red. Let's bring her down a bit. There we go. There's our minimums, continuing. Now, nice and gentle, reducing power. Touchdown with the mains, speed brake deployed, reverse thrust set. Underneath 60, going back to idle thrust. It's satisfying when everything works as it should. And you can see we just shot an ILS 28 right into San Francisco, and we are down safe and sound. We'll keep rolling here. We're going to exit right and head towards Signature. You guys know they are our preferred ground service people here. Let's retract the speed brakes. Slow down here. Airport looks very empty without traffic. I just wanted to, again, keep it clean. Hopefully it didn't have too much performance issues or anything that could interfere with the recording. We do have a little bit of stuttering. No surprise there. Alright, we're going to vacate the runway here, and then let's check out our after landing checklist. Okay, let's go ahead and clean the flaps up. Landing lights can come off. Strobes can come off. We'll go into ground recognition lights only. Again, those are over here, so recognition's your strobes, turn those off. And the ground recognition and any collision switch should be in the middle for ground only. Alright, now that that's there, we can turn off our windshield heat. We can turn off our pitot-static heat. Let's go ahead and power on the APU so that we don't lose electrical power once we shut down the engines. So we'll turn the master on. We'll go ahead and set APU to start. Let us start powering up. Let's go ahead and taxi to the ramp here. There's signature right there. So we're going to make a left-hand turn here. Looks like this is taxiway Charlie. We're going to bring her in nice and gentle. We're going to park right outside of the FBO. Throw the chocks on. Get our passenger door open. Our cargo door open. As we're going to assume we're going to be picking up some packs right here. But check it out, guys. That was an hour and 11 minutes from Paine Field. All the way from the northern side of Washington down to San Francisco. I've done this flight a couple times on airliners, and it's usually closer to the 2-hour mark. So you can see the Citation 10 is a speed monster. So doesn't get any better than this. Don't see any ground service people here or marshalers, so we're going to just taxi ourselves in. Let's go ahead and turn on the APU generator. Get our bleeder on. Turn off that taxi light. We'll come in here and swing at 180. Watching our wingtips here. I don't know, somewhere about right there. Parking brake is on. Alright, so we verified the APU gen is online. APU bleed is online. Let's go ahead and throw our engine or our throttle to cutoff. Throw these left-hand generator switches to off. Turn off the beacon. Keep the nav light on. Passenger seat belt and passenger safety can come to off. Let's bring up that EFB. Ground service. Chocks. Main door. Luggage door. Let's take a look outside. There you have it, folks. We've made it down to San Francisco aboard the FlightFX Citation 10. Like I mentioned during our descent, nothing crazy. There's nothing to it, really. It's pretty straightforward. Don't get intimidated, and feel free to just rewind throughout this video and figure out what you might have missed. I know I get carried away. Again, I apologize. I get very excited, and I just start babbling and doing things really quick. So just remind me in the comments there if I did that in this instance. But guys, don't get intimidated. The Citation 10 is a very user-friendly aircraft, and it is my absolute favorite business jet because it just looks the part. It tells you this is a business jet, and it looks like it was built for nothing other than looking good and flying fast, and I think that's all that everybody wants in real world. But anyways, guys, thank you for checking out this full flight tutorial. Again, aboard the FlightFX Citation 750, known as the Citation X Citation 10. the granddaddy of them all. This is Captain Gonzo with that Flight Sim channel. Welcome to San Francisco. And as always, I am wishing you all smooth landings, happy flying. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and comment. Guys, we'll be seeing you very soon. The channel is busy. I promise you, we've got a bunch of hardware that just got sent to us from various manufacturers, and that's why we've been slacking on the aircraft tutorials. Alright guys, we'll see you very soon. Once again, Captain Gonzo with that Flight Sim channel. See you guys.